Hi, Lisa.
These already on? Okay.
Continue on. Well, one more minute. So we'll just set them automatically.
Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Lisa Rogers wasn't able to be here tonight, so she said, Jim, take the meeting. And I said, okay, at least you won't be here physically, but she's online, so roll call. I'm here. Don Loving is here. Can you hear us online?
I hear you.
Okay. Mr. Ryerson and Lisa's online. Lisa, can you hear us?
Just thumb up, ask for thumb up or thumbs down. She said she may not have audio.
Okay. So you can hear us, yes, no?
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you. We miss your voice.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, we hear you now.
You do, okay.
Okay, is there any approval or additions to the agenda?
Seeing no additions, I'll move approval of the agenda as presented.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Lisa will second. Sorry.
I'll let Lisa second.
Okay, and then call for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Don Loving seconds. Okay.
We have to vote.
Okay, all those in favor of the consent agenda, raise your hand. Okay. Passes unanimously. Okay, I'm not a Robert's Rules of Order fan, so bear with me if I mess up. Okay. Next is public
I
participation.
just appreciate that you're doing it, Jim, so thank you very much.
I'm still trying to learn from you, Lisa.
You got a good coach next to you too.
That's right. Public participation is next. Donna, the auditor's online.
Yes. Who do we have online?
Sean, just need to have. There we go.
Hi, I'm
Sean?
here.
All right, you're on board.
Sounds good. Let me just try to share my screen here real quick. Oh, okay, never mind. I guess I do not have that ability.
We can give it to him. If they'll learn multiple. Share screen.
Hold on, Sean.
Okay, well, I don't have screen sharing, but can everyone hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, so I had sent over a post fieldwork memorandum. Hopefully Heidi passed that out to the board members.
It was, Sean, the draft audit as well as all the information was put in their board packet.
Perfect.
So they have it.
That sounds great. All right, then I'll get started. We complete. We're currently in the review process on the audits. So we have an exit memo for you. However, we do not have the finalized board letter. However, I do have the audit findings here, and I will go through these and you can follow along at the page.
Please try to share your screen again, Mr. Chamberlain. We just made an adjustment, so you should be able to do it now. If you give it a different try.
Great, yeah, I think it works now.
Great, thank you.
And does everyone see this one?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yes.
So our audit findings here, the first one that we found was related to the Fidelity insurance. We noticed that the district carries a large cash balance on with the bank, and Fidelity insurance coverage is around 50,000, I believe I last checked. And while this might be acceptable to the board, we included on a best practice just because there could be possibility of misstatement, and if that insurance was needed, 50,000 hopefully would be enough. And it's up to the board whether or not that is a significant, or if that is a good enough amount. Our second one, the segregation of duties in the accounting department. We tend to bring this one up year after year, mostly because without a lot of personnel, some duties will overlap. This happens pretty much anywhere you go, especially in these times with COVID and a lot of people really leaving jobs or things like that. It's hard to find employees these days. So our main focus, though, was on the administrative coordinator position, which both enters employees into the software as well as processes payroll, which those are two conflicting jobs. However, with board oversight, that is completely manageable with oversight from the administration, with oversight from the superintendent. So the third one, we noted that the district's actuarial valuation for the implicit health subsidy lapsed. I believe the last 2 years, the district got a actuarial valuation. However, this year, with the change in administration, we saw that it may have been forgotten. And for the actual liability of that, the liability associated with that actuarial valuation is not incredibly high. So it didn't trigger any red flags from us to make it a more significant finding. It's just a best practice at this time. And the final three on the list here are exit comments. I've highlighted them just so you can see. Normally, these would not be included in the board letter at the issuance of our audit. However, since it's not completely issued yet, we have the exit comments included here. The first exit comment being regarding journal entries. We had a hard time finding some of the physical copies on journal entries. We were able to test some backup copies of them, but we noticed that there was some timing problems with review, and we'll be reviewing that again next year to make sure that that's all proper. The second exit comment was for bank reconciliations. We noted that a lot of the bank reconciliations weren't prepared towards the beginning of the year. But towards the end of the year, as staff changed, we actually did see that get a little bit better, and we will continue to be testing that in the following year. And our final exit comment, just regarding pre-signed checks. We just put this on here to remind the superintendent and the board to make sure that these are being reviewed, that reconciliations on these pre-signed checks are being kept track of. And as for the rest of that, these outstanding items at the bottom, they have since been completed. So actually, we don't have any outstanding items at the moment. We are just going through the review of the file, and we'll be issuing the report relatively soon. And that's all for my presentation.
Sean, this is
Have any
Lisa
questions?
Rogers.
Yeah.
Yes, can you hear me?
Mhm.
So on the insurance coverage for the bank account, don't you automatically get a $250,000 FDIC insurance in each account that you have open? Isn't that true?
Oh, yes, that is
It's
true.
true.
That is related to the bank itself. If the bank were to fail and the bank account were to be closed by the bank, those assets you would be reimbursed by the FDIC for the amount that they insure. This amount was related to employee honesty, or also known as fidelity insurance. Sometimes it's also if you have an employee bonded, that's what that would be related to.
What's your recommendation then? If you think that 50,000 is low, what is the best practice?
Well, we don't necessarily make a recommendation. Generally, these are conversations that are best had with your insurance agent, but 50,000 is kind of low for the district. The district does hold hundreds of thousands generally in the bank accounts. In some districts will tend to go up and down depending on the board. It all depends on what the board is comfortable with having, because there is additional costs associated with higher insurance coverage. So it's a balancing act.
If I
Okay,
could,
thank you.
if I could add for the board's information, we did meet with the insurance agent. We met with all the staff that handle money. What we decided on, because we don't keep money, large amounts of money in safes, we deposit every day. There's very seldom a large amount. We just felt that 50,000 was adequate. We went over the insurance. As you raise it, you pay more. As far as the banks, all our money is mostly kept with the state of Oregon. And we do deposit and keep money in US Bank and those. And I'm not sure, do you know, we don't transfer money from the state to those bank accounts. Heidi, can you recollect what the highest amount would have been?
I try to keep it really tight balance because we're not gaining interest if it's a good amount of interest anyways, if it's not the state pool. So like the payables account, I try to keep it just enough with a little bit of a buffer to cover all our payments that are going out. And then our deposit account is really what pays towards that. And then I just transfer money from the state pool if we didn't have enough day-to-day cash flow on there. So, I mean, it's a balancing of floating, but it's a really tight float. So it's under 250, definitely at all times.
I think if we had like the bond, like we had, we were dealing with a lot of money at that time, a lot of big checks coming through. Might look at it differently, but we don't have a bond right now. that we're paying off, as in paying the contractor, and thus that money's not coming through, so.
What the problem, Jim, is like we collect money now with credit cards. Not as much funds are collected anymore.
Mhm.
We're talking about thousands. When I say thousands, maybe $3,000-4,000. We deposit it every day in the bank. It is possible that it can get up to 10,000 over the weekends, but Monday we deposit it. Again, we did meet with the insurance agent, and based on everyone there, what we decided was 50,000 would cover any of our losses. We'd have no problem with that. So that's the reason that amount was chosen. It goes in increments. And so we went to 50,000. So I hope that explains that and gives you some comfort in how we do it. Otherwise, all our funds are kept in state pool. And if the board may not be aware, but a number of years ago, when we started with SDCs, I moved them to the state pool.
Does the staff have anything else to say about the other points that were brought up?
The, first of all, I love the auditors. I love audit time. I've been doing it, so, but I do. They just make us better. So it's a great point for me to just try to do better each time. The actuary validation that he's talking about, it wasn't even on my radar. Had no clue. I've already reached out to the company. They're on board, so we've already got that scheduled. So it will happen for the current fiscal cycle that we're in now. So it will be for our next board report. But everything else that he mentioned in there, I wasn't surprised at all, because what I came into, I was already aware pretty much immediately where those weaknesses were at. So, you know, those were not a surprise at all. So,
Okay.
But we're already getting better, so it's great.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you for having me.
Before you go, Jim, I had a question, or maybe it's a comment. Sean, maybe, sounds like Don Clements was talking about the case for insurance as if the need was just to cover us in case there was a theft or robbery or something like that. But it's my understanding that insurance you're talking about would also cover us for like embezzlement or something like that.
That is what that insurance is for. If I remember, Sean, is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
What the 50,000 is for.
Mhm.
Right. So I'm not suggesting that we need more, but it's, I don't think just because we only have, or 6,000 or 10,000 on hand at the time, conceivably, and I'm not suggesting that we need more, but I think the reason that might have been suggested is, if we had somebody that was dishonest within the district that had signing capabilities, they could write themselves a check, buy a new motorhome or something. So I think, like I said, again, I'm not suggesting that's going to happen, but I just want to clear what the insurance is for.
It could occur. I think it would be caught right away, simply because all the checks and the numbers are accounted for. That doesn't mean that a dishonest person could not do it, but we would catch it right away. The only person that could probably get away with it would be Heidi or those. And normally I go over with them and check all the check numbers. If you remember, in this board packet is all the check numbers. And we account for all those numbers. We give you the amount that the check numbers are. And I go over those. So to answer your question, it is possible, but I think it would be caught right away.
I don't even think we'd actually get a check out the door because Don physically signs every check along with every invoice. He will not sign the checks without the backup documentation with each one, which is one of the reasons why the district has never gone to stamped checks with signatures, because he looks at every single one, and if something's a new vendor to him, he actually always comes and asks me, so it would be very difficult. It is, everything's always possible, but we do have a pretty tight structure set up.
I think the reality is that Heidi could probably make it to Mexico if she hustled, but she couldn't get to a country without an extradition treaty. She couldn't get that far.
Exactly.
Do any of the other board members have any questions?
Nope.
Okay, anything else from the staff? Okay, well, thank you very much for coming and presenting. We appreciate it. And I guess we'll see you again next year, or at least.
Thank you. Yeah. See you again.
Thank God.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have pickleball complex presentation.
Yes.
So for the record, you can just state your name so we know who's.
My name is Hunter Wiley. Chairman of the Pickleball Advisory Committee. I have the committee notice tonight. The only member that is not attending decided to go to Hawaii versus here. I don't know why, but in any case, they did. And good. That's not trying to make my pen do the slides. Tonight, we're here to talk about property selection and also some ancillary information about grants. Okay. As Lisa Rogers told me, grants require property. And right now, tomorrow, we're going to submit a grant for $4.15 million in funding. It's from Oregon Health Authority. They're giving in up to $30 million this year. This is not a matching grant. It's a straight grant. The decision will be made in February. The grant was first issued December 3rd. That's the reason you guys weren't involved earlier, because I think your last meeting was the 5th or something like that. In any case, I've attended 2 schools on that grant, determine whether we have a good chance of meeting or not, so forth. We're looking at some other grants that are mentioned there. And currently, the property evaluated has been 13 properties. I know there's a list of 11 there, but number 9 actually is 3 properties in total. Of all those, we've come up with 2 selections that were feasible. And the reasons for not selecting the other ones are listed there. And if you have any questions at the end of the presentation, we can certainly address those. The first site we looked at was Chehalem. We selected the Chehalem Glen, and it's currently some reservations over the basically ruining the design of the golf course and so forth. Essentially, you've got out there is 2 card tables without the legs. That's flat land. Unlike your first and second 9, which have lots of topology issues you have to consider into the design. This one is flat. So one of the things about using CAD on this type of design is that you can cut and paste an existing pole to a new location, taking all of its design characteristics with it, which means you can make the golf course look virtually lay out any way you want and still keep the original designs for all the holes. And that's what we're proposing, is you lose nothing in design. I will show you, and I have a handout later on where I've cut and pasted one just as an example. This is not an official golf course design. And the only change I made was increasing 1 dog leg on 1 course by between 5 and 9 degrees. Okay, I've spoken to your designer, and strictly from the standpoint of finding out if he would be willing to work on any changes, and his answer was yes. And of course, he'd be paid for that portion. I also talked to the Yamhill County Planning Department, particularly Ken Friday, regarding any changes to your current conditional use permits. We certainly don't want to cause anything that could lose those permits. And he went back and said, looks like the stuff we're proposing, and we went over it pretty thoroughly, total scope of the project, plus he knew about pickleball, would require a $3,600 modification of conditional use. And all that's explained there. Basically, the public objections are what he thought would be anything that would delay us. And of course, that's obvious. So Mr. Friday had his staff research this for us and was very, very, very helpful. We're looking at a single complex for golf, trailhead, and pickleball, where the facilities that would be built for pickleball could also be shared by these other activities, to parking for, and a trailhead for golf course, not the golf course, but for the trails. Oops. Oops, that's not working. Okay, the ground we're talking about, let's have a pointer in this someplace. Whoops, back. Never mind, let's move forward one. The ground we're talking about is, there's two, I'll walk up here, it's easier. There's an area that goes from about here to here to here. And I have a drawing with the actual holes laid out and the issues that would be whole relocations, not shortening, not decreasing the widths, keeping the original design in place and keeping it on the property. These are essentially dead flat. There's such a low amount of slope. The greatest slope of the lake is 2.2%. And that's across a diagonal. Unlike this, which has a lot of topology in it, they had to do a lot of work to design that. And moving a hole in that type of environment is difficult because you can deal with a large amount of topology. Relocating something here, and I say relocating, it's like move 50 feet this way, move 100 feet down, that kind of stuff is pretty straightforward and pretty cut and dry. Okay, the next place we looked at was Friends Park, and I don't know if you're familiar with that or not. Friends Park is located here, and I will go back to the previous slide. And the biggest issue here we've got in Friends Park is public access in this area. That is, those streets are very congested. They have parking at both sides of the street. Adding 200 to 500 cars a day through there, I think would be hazardous to kids. And I think that they would be, the public would go crazy on this basically. The thing we looked at then was, well, how else can you get in there? And your current bridge was going to go across here. And obviously the path, I'm not saying I'm a designer, but would have to go in someplace in an intersecting park. That's about a third of a mile. Well, it's actually a little over a third of a mile. Pardon me, it's about 7/10 of a mile over there. That would be an expensive proposition. Plus the bridge is there, and you can't have two things in the same place. Well, that brought up a question of why aren't you using the bridge? I've asked this question. I haven't been able to find an answer. Currently, the Winooski Bridge is ADA certified. It's got 2 ADA sidewalks on it. It's got bike paths on it. And it terminates exactly the same place your bridge does. And they're basically feet across from each other for the majority of their span. And the nice thing about it is it doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to pay for maintenance, and you can use it immediately. Anyway, that access, if you use Winooski, gives you access to Dog Ridge Road, CPRD property that's down by the river, using just Dog Ridge, no improvements there. Immediate access to the paper mill properties. Whoops. That's the pointer again. What's going on? Okay. Now I've spoken to the engineer in charge of this new intersection that's going to be built for ODOT there. They've said that they're very willing to work on an easement here to put in a sidewalk and bike path with you. They said they've been doing this over here as far as cooperating. In any case, to use Winooski would add 7/10 of a mile to the distance from there versus there. Would come all the way across here. There's tons and tons of sidewalks and bike paths here. There's bike paths terminating there. Well, actually, the bike paths go all the way through here. There's no sidewalks, but the developer, when he does this property, is going to be eating that. Guaranteed the city's going to do that. The real key thing, though, is this road right here. This is your path to gold mine. Forget these. I didn't have time to get those out. Using this road, there's an at-grade bridge that crosses this, what they call sewage ponds, which is the city has redesignated stormwater detention ponds for this complex. Right here is the most expensive real estate in that complex. Businesses are going to locate along there, restaurants, you name it. This is going to be your highest value trail right there. Okay, your trail comes in right now like that. This gives you access down there on this end, coming around like this. Winooski still crosses over, gives the same access. Unfortunately, there's a concrete wall that runs the full length of this called the bypass. This will give you access here. This is a place to generate a lot of donations because you're going to put a lot of traffic right in front of them, and they're going to get a lot of traffic on your, what I call the promenade. And this is for bikes, it's for people, and they are going to want to build that for you because it's going to put money in their pocket. That's an extremely valuable piece of real estate. It also allows them to get parking and other stuff located in these areas, and people can get into it easily. For people that are not resident or living here. The other thing is access to Dog Ridge Road, which gives you access to these properties. Same road here, there. Your current properties are there and there. You can get there from Parrish Road if you can convince two property owners to give you easements into that drainage. Good luck. Possibly three property owners, but two of them own 99%. So issues and recommendations. Grants require land. We're submitting our grant tomorrow. It's due on Monday, but it's going in tomorrow for $4.1 million, which is basically full funding the project. We have a unique opportunity here because OHA issued these and they made it very clear that you didn't have to exactly conform to what they wanted. They wanted some new, fresh ideas. And our fresh ideas are, and they wanted, and the category we're going under is for the impact of COVID-19 and also climate change. And the basis of our grant is that and one of the things they hadn't called out was the people that are the biggest impact in those areas is on seniors. The biggest number of users we have in the sport is seniors. Now, we did a survey which ended last week of the metropolitan area. And I don't have it here in front or not. Anyway, that's part of our grant submission. And it has, let's see, oh, here it is. And what it has is this is where we surveyed. This shows you the people responded. We're proposing a regional center, okay? This is where the money will be made for the pickleball. This is tournaments and so forth. They're just icing on the cake. We're looking at all the cost, I should say revenue estimates, which I'm going to supply to that because I believe you were interested in that and seeing how I did my revenue projections and all that's fun. And you can take a look at that. Are based on high participation by seniors, which will be over 60%. Now, and how we know that is in the same survey, we have 90% are from 40 to 80 years old. Okay, and we didn't pick out these people. We just said people that are potential who are players, not like just suspects. So we're looking for our recommendation is Hale and Glen, the third 9 expansion area without losing any of the functionality of the golf course. We want to keep the designs remain unchanged other than movement of some of the holes laterally or up and down. Pickleball is located in surplus area away from housing, which is nice because pickleball does have a bad habit of raising neighbors' concerns and noise. And we get three things out of this. We get a trailhead, a pickleball thing, and a golf course area for shelters, restrooms, and additional parking. This takes, the trailhead currently uses golf course parking, and this would relieve you of all that. It would all go straight into this. The majority of the parking, pickleball, each one of these facilities will take a little over an acre, 40,000 square feet. So the majority of the space we're looking for is not for buildings, it's for parking. And we're looking at gravel space parking. Look at paved parking, permeable paved parking, which is incredibly expensive. And basically building these structures. And I've gotten quotes. The interesting thing is, since I got the first quotes last spring, where I got them now, they've gone up 15%. And I expect it's going to continue to climb. And we can supply you all those quotations and vendors and so forth. In no case are we trying to negotiate with the district. We've taken in prevailing wage, those have been factored in, but we're not agents of the district. So that's our presentation. We're looking for a recommendation to move forward, otherwise we can't get grants. We need land. Any questions? Silence is deadly.
Did you want to put for other board members back on?
Okay, one additional handout I'll give you guys is the before and after view of someone just doing cutting and pasting in the golf course to show you what our intent is. The only thing we did is I cut out with a pair of scissors the existing hole designs and moved them. So in one case, that green one on the top increases its dog leg by between 5 and 9 degrees. That's the nice thing about it, essentially designing on flat surfaces. If you're not familiar with CAD, when you design a hole, it has all these characteristics below it, like what's the land look like, what's the grades I want, all these things that they put in the design. And when you move them, they take all that with them and then they apply the same rules again for the new locations. So the grading calculations are done, everything is done for them. And that's the reason I use CAD. Otherwise, they'd have to redraft all that stuff and they never get done. The other thing, and I can pick this up, is we had questions on the return on investment of the course and how we came up with those numbers. The assumption of the numbers I gave you was the weekdays where it would have a 25% occupancy rate. The rate here are shown per court. You'll have an average number of players per court is 4. So it means for a court hour, it costs a player $5. Competitive courts are opening up now. There's one in Clackamas. The initial deposit was $3,000. And for that, you got to play 7 times a month for 45 minutes. Average play time is generally an hour and a half to 2 hours. So the people load I've shown here. Whoops.
Can I say something? Something I wanted to say is that along with this is bringing people into our community in the winter, not the summer months. The thing I really want you guys to think about is that people, I drive 3 or 4 nights a week into Portland so I can play in the church. There's people that are anxious to play in the winter. That's bringing people into our community when it's dark and cold and not in the summer months.
Could you identify yourself for the record?
Lance Tramplin.
Thank you.
The Taste of Newburgh is very sensitive to this, particularly the off season and the shoulder seasons, and the amount of people we're going to bring in. And that's the reason they gave us that letter of support, because they clearly see that local traffic, local meaning regional traffic, is going to come in.
For the board's information, we did receive a foundation, one from the Chamber of Commerce and then the Taste of Newburgh. So I have those 3 letters and they'll be included in your packet.
I understand the bridge was a poor decision. recommend that the board re-examine that decision to build that bridge. And maybe even further down to the second bridge, because you're talking about, by the time those are done, probably $15 million getting that to the cost. $10, $15 million. There is an alternate path down the through one of your parks, through a very small piece of the ODOT property that connects your parks to the bypass, and then on to the old Dundee, the old Dundee Newburgh Road. And that connects them to their brand new sidewalks.
Can I add something to that? It's not our decision. The decision was made by ODOT. They applied for previously 2 Tiger grants. All of these bridges will be primarily funded by ODOT. That means the greatest majority of the money will come from them, not us. We're contributing because it lays into that. We met early on about the using alternative routes. ODOT wants that route because they're required by law to put in the bicycle as well as pedestrian rights, and they have to do it. They know that. We, rather than pressure them, our idea has been, whether it's right or wrong, is to work with them in achieving what needs to be done. Those alternatives were looked at, and we still will probably use your solution to get over that way anyway. We met with the owners of the mill, told them what we were going to do. And as you well know, the city of Newburgh owns land there. So there's a lot, and we have worked with them over the last 5 to 10 years. So all of what you laid out will probably be done as well.
Loving has a question.
Question, comment, editorializing, whatever. First off, I mean, I'm all about your guys' project. I think it's a great idea. I have no issues there. It's also no secret that, if there's a board member who is protective of the golf course and the integrity of the third nine of the golf course, it's me. And so when we start talking about the golf course, then I start getting nervous. I see Kellen's here. Kellen, are you there?
I'm here.
Have you seen the whole redesigns here that these folks are talking about?
I have not. I talked to Mr. Wiley a couple of weeks ago, but I have not seen the changes that he's proposing.
Okay. So that's a bit of an issue. Parkhead Pro hasn't seen this.
Casey, did you talk to Stidel about this proposal?
Look up, Casey.
Yeah. He's getting it.
I think you hit the wrong button. He doesn't want to talk to us.
He's not feeling well, so that could be.
He's watching Family Feud, didn't want us to interrupt.
I thought this.
There we go.
I hear
I think
it.
I'm back.
Now we hear you.
We can hear you now.
I did talk to John Stidel because he reached out to me and said that Hunter had left a message on his phone and asked if I should talk to him. And I said, John, it's fine if he wants to talk to you. Let him know whatever you think is right. And yeah, he probably redesign it. But he's leery of it. He designed it to fit in there one way, and Hunter has proposed something else. So anyway, that was his take on it.
Casey, looking at this map, he's only moving the tee box on one hole. Were you familiar with that particular?
I have not seen the map. No.
No, I haven't shown this to anybody.
Okay,
I mean, frankly, I was been one of my priorities, but I've been doing this grant and this presentation, if you look at things, and I didn't get this done until today.
the reason I mentioned that, Casey, looking at this, and I'm assuming the area you're referring to is in green.
That's the strike rate.
Right. He's not really changing but one hole, and he's not changing anything other than he's moving the tee boxes over.
Yeah, the whole hole shifts.
Yeah.
Everything else, dimensionally, it all remains the same.
I don't know about the safety. I'm just looking at a map. As you and I both know, there's landing areas and there's required distances. I would have to talk with John about that. It looks possible.
Okay.
But I can't tell until we go out and draw it out, but it looks possible.
Okay, well, I can't make any comments on that right now, so.
Casey,
Understood.
Hope you feel better soon, Casey.
I got my booster shot yesterday and I was fine yesterday, and today I have kind of a headache and kind of feel, my head feels a little fuzzy, let's put it that way.
You sure that's just not from work?
Well, that could be too, Jim.
I'm sorry.
Hunter, can I ask a question? This is Lisa. I was wondering what, you said you're going to be submitting an application for the 4.15 million tomorrow.
Right.
And you need to have the land. Like, is that going to make your application null and void then? Because independent of what we do tonight, you're not going to have like a deed that says the land is going to be set aside for this particular purpose at this particular time. So I'm not just wondering how that's going to affect that application.
Let's assume that we get the grant awarded and they go, where are you going to put it?
Right, but that's what I'm saying is, will they even look at your grant application without having a space identified?
Probably not, but at the point in time, and if we can win this, and I think we have a very good shot at, then they go, well, if you don't have a place to put it, thank you, goodbye.
Right, okay.
Did you look at the 5 acres that we own in Dundee off of
Absolutely. That's one of them that was right on the list. I went out and personally visited. Yeah, there's an old thing in location, location, location. And unfortunately, that property is out at the end of not quite at the end of the road, but it's a very hard place to get through Dundee. It's a very circuitous route, and I think we would lose well over half of the people attending just because of this location.
The reason I mentioned that, I think it would be easy to get to simply because they're building the new grade school right there on that same street.
On the other side, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's going to improve that roadway immensely. And
Are they going to basically rebuild streets through town? That's what it's going to take.
They're definitely going to have to, the red light, improve that road that goes down to Edwards Drive. And Edwards Drive is a collector. And then if you were going to that facility, you would come down 99W to the red light there, then turn to Edwards. But I didn't know, is it large enough? Is 5 acres
5
large?
acres is marginal. I mean, like I said, we need 2 acres for buildings and then the rest is for parking.
Yeah,
And that's been the limiting factor. I mean, the reason we were looking behind Chehalem Valley, on that land, that's about 5 acres, 4.6 to 5 acres. The same reason, and other than it's being used by the school district, it was even marginal there.
Yeah.
No, we've examined every opportunity and every piece of land that's been identified, including underneath the overpasses. Bypass overpasses.
I talked with ODOT about the underpasses and they had difficulties. They would not give us any deeds or any rights because of 4F. There's a situation that they have to deal with. They've done it in other communities and they've wound up rescinding what they tried to do, but they were not able to do it because of the 4F. And so I think that would cut that out.
So I guess related to Lisa's question, do you have to have a land decision when you put the grant application in, or do you have to have a land decision nearer the time they make their decision?
You have to have it when they make their decision. And that will be in February.
So we have a whole month.
Not really, but anyway.
February. Mike Krangon, Newburgh Pickleball Club, I'm involved with Thunder River Pickleball Club, etc. I heard the concerns and they could be a big concern, but would the board consider approval of this property subject to review of safety issues and other issues that could be done timely? And then as a backup, if that's not feasible, would they approve the friendly location as a backup?
So when I look at this for the golf course, my concern is number one, the county hasn't approved this as far as the land use is concerned. And also from a development standpoint, which I'm familiar with permitting and so on and so forth, just being able to get on the property, the turn lanes, do we have to change the road? Do we have to do all those things? It hasn't really been dealt with or looked at yet. And I think those things are super important when you throw numbers out. As I learned with the aquatic center, we had numbers and we did what we needed to do. And then all of a sudden, another government entity comes back and says, well, you know what? We now want you to do this. So there's more to it than just this 4.15 million, I think, in my opinion. And I don't have enough information to make a decision on this property or any other property. I'd like to hear from the superintendent and see where he's at on this, to give this board some ideas.
$4.5 million will more than build this facility.
That's 4.15.
4.1.
Including road improvements if we have to do that?
That's the reason I went to the planning commission in Yamhill County. Knowing exactly what you're saying is that, yes, someone else can fly in from outer space and say, oh, geez, yeah, I know what they did to your culture center and so forth. So yes, that can happen. Phase one, though, is finding out what these first guys said they're going to tell you. And what they're going to say you're going to have to do with the property.
We currently out there, we have our greenhouse. We have a storage shed and those type. It could be moved. Do we want to move it? No. Jim, as you're well aware, like with Fish and other organizations that we work with in the community, we've always kind of given in over our operational needs because we felt it was in the best interest of the community, not necessarily in the district's best interest.
Please understand, and everyone else, that I am an advocate of pickleball. I think it's great. I have a court at my place, personally. So I'm not against it. I just want to have more facts. I think that's important for the board. That's where I look at it. So I think if we get in the community it would be an awesome thing. So I'm not against that at all. I just, me personally, I just need more information. And if we can put it in that, on that property, great, but I just need more information than just what came to us tonight.
So when is you said it's not a full month, when is the drop dead date you need a decision?
Well, I would say probably no later than the middle of February for sure.
Okay.
Because, I mean, if we don't get the money, it's somewhat academic, right?
Right.
My,
I'll just throw this out, I'm even willing to, up for a special meeting just about this issue in 2 weeks. If we need to, but like Jim, I'm not really prepared to make a decision tonight. I certainly want, Kellen and Casey to see the whole redesign. I need to hear from the course designer myself. I mean, that's my big issue is the golf course. I'm upfront about that.
No, I would hope that Stadell would be involved directly, saying,
Yeah,
okay,
well,
just as the thought guys, this is what we're thinking about.
what we can do is have him on Zoom at our meeting. I'll contact John and we can schedule a meeting.
I don't need to talk to John. I just need Kellen or Casey
Yeah.
or you to talk to John and
All
have
right.
somebody tell me it's okay.
If looking at this map on the preliminary, if I had to make a recommendation to the board based on what I see, not what I know, because you're exactly correct. And I would want it understood that I have a right to change my mind as the facts come in.
Mhm.
I would recommend that the board go with this because the 4.5 is much more important to the community than our operations. Our operations, we can survive and make things work and move things. This is an opportunity. And if I had to make a recommendation, I would recommend that we go along with it, allow them to make this submittal of the grant with this property in mind, and that we make the final decision in 2 weeks when we meet back in February. Is that okay with the committee?
Sure.
Would it be possible if you could tell us what you want to know so that we're prepared in 2 weeks, besides what Don's gonna do with the golf course designer, et cetera? Because when you say you want more information,
Actually-
it's indefinite as to what that is.
So this is Lisa again, and I was wondering, is there a way, Hunter, that you could get in touch with whoever it is at Oregon Health Authority to find out what it is that they're going to require regarding the land? Because my experience as a nonprofit developer is if we submit applications to the Oregon Housing and Community Services through the state, if we don't have land not only identified, but you have to have some kind of a sale agreement or some kind of a lease agreement. You have to something executed to submit with that application, or they don't consider the application valid, and they'll just dump it. They won't even consider it. So if we're going to come back in 2 weeks, we're going to have to be prepared with a lease agreement or something that's going to allow for this work to happen, if they'll let it. I think, Hunter, you might want to check tomorrow, see if anybody can give you some of that information, because depending on what we need to do in 2 weeks, are we going to be prepared to identify that, whatever parcel that is, and give a lease agreement in that same period of time in order to make sure that this application for funding is going to be valid?
Yeah, I can certainly call them tomorrow, or basically you call them, leave a message, and then get back to you when you want. The final date is on Monday, so we may be pressing a little close there, but I will certainly call and ask. My concern is I don't want to raise an issue that at this point in time would just get us immediately disqualified if we don't have a hard answer.
Would,
So in the materials that you had, there was nothing in there that said that you had to have land identified and
Nothing.
secured.
This grant is very unique. I mean, I've got it right here if anybody wants a copy of it. It's not like any one of the, normally you see a grant, they're gonna come out and go, we want X, Y, and Z, these are the conditions for it, so on and so forth, that's it. And you have to comply to that, supply whatever they want in the grant. This one says, okay, we've got 7 different grants that are now being combined. You can pick and choose any of them you want, combine them any way you want, and then give us a proposal, and don't get stuck with what we've written here. If you think you have an innovative proposal, submit it, and they've made that clear time and time again. It is, I think frankly, I think these guys found themselves with a pot full of money, had to write a grant, basically a grant request with a request for proposals, and came up with this loosey-goosey approach to supplying it. If you want, I can drop this off. I have found nothing in here on properties. I've asked specific questions about capital projects, and they said, one part of the grant, it says a couple of the grants, the smaller ones don't allow any capital projects, the bigger ones don't specifically exclude it. And when I asked them about that, they said, well, we'll have to see what you're asking for, because they're not specifically excluded.
Okay, I mean, that makes sense. I would say maybe then what the board might need to consider, y'all, is whether or not, rather than identifying the specific piece of property, is as a board, do we want to say, if they get the money, we will find a piece of property that this can happen on?
Yeah, something along the
because
lines of,
I don't know that we're ready to say that part of the golf course is it. It might be, but there might be a different place that would work better.
That's the reason we gave you the alternative of Friends Park. I mean, I didn't want to come in here with, well, this is it. Okay, Friends Park is another one. I just wanted to identify all the concerns we have in Friends Park that would also be showstoppers. One of which was getting in and out of that place and not wiping out the kids in the neighborhood.
yeah.
The park, I mean, the land is fine. It's the right size, about 10 acres or less. It's basically blank. It's got a postage stamp playground on it, which is fine. But the through traffic into that area is not good. But land is great, but building a road in there would probably be close to $2 million, assuming you could actually find a place to put one. And that's another thing you guys would have to eat, and that's
Yeah.
using the land.
But also on that piece of property, I applied for a grant for that, to build that park. And we got the grant.
What's the status of this $200,000 grant?
It was 174,000.
Yeah, but it's
So
not complete.
that was a matching plan. As far as, unless, I don't know whether it's complete yet or not. I don't know if Casey's
That's
done the
what,
paperwork. I got the grant.
that's
So
what
then I
I asked,
retired.
because it was clear that if you haven't completed that grant, you're not eligible for others.
Well, that's for state parks. I don't know if it's
That's true on that.
statewide.
Well,
I know state parks, that's true.
yeah, and that's, whatever that one was, and that's the reason I asked that question about 2 months ago, is what's the status of that grant? Because, we're not gonna go apply something, they're just gonna tell you no, because you haven't completed something.
Casey would have the answer to that.
Yeah. Anyway, that's been on the table for a while. We want to get, alternatives, okay, but on the other hand, we all have certain constraints.
Don, I think it can fit in here.
This lady here has had her hand.
Yeah.
up.
Linda Sandberg, pickleball committee. Hunter did actually take a webinar on this grant. And as we've discussed it at length at our committee meetings, I think if the park district or you as a board did your due diligence and said we are behind this and yes, we can find land, I think that would probably be a great step in the right direction. I mean, I have two, like Lisa, I've written grants, and it's always you don't know until you don't know what you did. And my thought is ask not, have not. And I like this because for me as a park and rec major, it gives us some diversity, and it also allows an intergenerational and a multi-generational facility. And it's great exposure for the golf course, for the community, and I think it would be remiss if we didn't take a leap of faith here.
I'm okay with making a commitment that we'll find land somewhere. Shoot, I would give you the 5 acres in Dundee at night, take it, so.
Yeah, I mean, if they had, if there was an accident bypass that was there, was not gonna be. That wouldn't be too bad, because, you know, it's 6 miles out. You know, I measured all these things just to see what it can be. And basically, when you go further out, then your ring of attraction moves with it. And in any case, yeah, I mean, I've looked at that. First time you guys give me recommendations, I go out and look at all the way. I do measurements, whatever, I make a determination whether it's reasonable. So,
I can tell you on the 8th Street property, the paddle launch was at the end of 8th Street, and people stopped that out. So, you know, if they, I mean, I understand that it's not easy for some people, but it's not difficult either. If they really want to go play pickleball, I'll bet they go there. Just because that's what happened with the paddle launch. Same thing. We want to do this, they went and did it. But that's just another option to land. Do we want to make, does anyone want to make a motion or have any other conversation on this?
This is Lisa again. I wonder if to strengthen, I mean, over $4 million, if it is available, is something we probably don't want to not take advantage of. So I think that I would recommend that we, as a board, have the staff write a letter of support for this application in terms of providing land in some fashion. I don't know if we're ready to do that right now, but if we are ready, they could submit that letter with their application, which will make it a much stronger application.
Yeah, Lisa, I agree. And I don't think I can support the Friends Park location, but you know, if we got recommendations back from staff from Kellen and buy-in from Don Loving, and you know, I'd consider either the golf course property or the 5 acres in Dundee. And while the pickleball committee doesn't seem to be that excited about it, I do believe that that's probably a pretty good spot for it. So, but I think your idea of having the staff submit a letter with a signature from a director saying that we support this and we'll find a piece of property is probably a good step. And then we can consider, you know, we can look at whether the golf course makes sense or not. You know, certainly not ready to commit to that, but you know, we can find property which can help us get the grant, and then to get the grant, we can have some more serious discussion.
Okay. Thanks, Bart. I agree.
Yeah, you're on the committee. You have anything to add? Okay.
I think Lisa makes a good point. I'm good with going there. Again, I don't want you folks to feel like I'm being a wet blanket toward the project at all, but you know, I'm the grand overlord of the golf course, so I am going to protect it
I
at all
came here
costs.
fully expecting, you know, the grand overlord to go through mass intimidation with me and so forth, and say, you gotta prove that, and that's fine, I fully expect that.
If it works, it sure will be an amazing property. If it can work all together. it would be amazing.
I'm good with committing to you folks. We'll find you some land somewhere.
Okay.
Do we need a motion on this?
Absolutely. And
Does someone want to
I
make
will
that
so
motion?
move that we have staff immediately draft a letter as Lisa described it, gives support to the committee that the park district will commit to finding property. Then we can argue about.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Was that clear, that motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for your hard work.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it. And I know how working
Thanks for
hard.
serious
you work.
consideration, which is
Yes,
what we're really after here, so. And you've got all those drawings, you don't need any of that.
Okay, so I'm having lunch tomorrow with the guy who's extremely interested in this. So anything else you leave me paper they give to.
The only thing I will tell you is I went through every one of these drawings to figure out exactly what was there, how much.
You won't care about golf.
Yeah.
You don't care about that.
Okay. The, I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, I can give you a copy of our grant submittal, but that'll bore you to death at lunch. But the basis of the grant submittal, and I think where we've got them,
He's another lobbyist, he's a nerd like that. He would enjoy that.
yeah, is they overlooked in their, I mean, they go through, they say, we want all this stuff to people suffering from COVID, transgender stuff, all this other stuff. And that's all fine, but the thing that they overlook is they want to know how you're going to help the people who are really suffering from COVID and environmental change. And they overlook seniors. And but they allow you to put it in there. And we've supplied them a raft of real data on how this helps seniors.
Well, I just hope you get it.
Well, I do too.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great. If not, we're going to go to the next.
Okay, I gotta ask you guys, do any of you guys know Ron Giebenheim?
No.
No.
Yeah, I know, it's just weird. So Ron is, I don't know, 10 years older than I am, and he played 30-year-old, 30 and over basketball out in Dundee with Don and I for years and years. I mean, he was Mr. Pickleball of Newburgh. He's got his own court in his own gym indoors outdoors Ewing School out that way.
I've heard about him, but I never knew his name.
Yeah,
It's like
he's
a
just-
barn. He's got this.
He's got a farm, he's got a barn, he's got his own basketball.
Yeah, I've heard
He's
about
got
it. I've never
pickleball out
met
there. I mean, he's just always trying to, that's all he ever want to talk about. While you're playing basketball, he wants to talk about pickleball for years and years and years and years.
We need him on
But I
our
don't
committee.
see him as often, you can see him like every other day at his, he loved his, but I just don't see him that often anymore. But it just seems weird to me that we're talking about pickleball and Ron's not involved.
Well, thank you all.
Give
I
him-
really
Yes, thank you.
appreciate
And
the
thank you.
time.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
The
thank you.
economic impact could be really significant to Newburgh.
If you have any questions on that, the financial stuff or whatever, it's in detail, Dave.
And Gail's been
Thank you, Don.
awesome to work with. You guys have a good board member here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gail.
So then say hi to your daughter from
I will.
both daughters. There's
It's
two.
really sensitive, guys with bullets. Thank you. Yeah.
Yay, there's no one else on the agenda?
We have to ask if there's anybody online who wants to speak.
Is there anyone online that wants to speak?
Apparently not. Hearing none. Yes.
Go ahead and move the action items, committee reports, board comments, budget committee appointment, Don?
Yes, I gave you a list. Everyone was willing to serve again if the board wishes to appoint them.
I move that we approve the budget committee people that as represented in our board packet.
I second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 All right.
Okay, the next item on the agenda under action item is the personnel handbook.
We gave you a copy. We've been working on this for a couple of years. What I'll do is turn it over to Heidi and she can explain what we did in the last couple of months. Well, about 6 months. So Heidi, take it away.
She doesn't even have a nameplate. How can we expect anything from her to be talked about?
Nerd alert, this is fun stuff
She
again.
got one.
Yes, I have an actual.
Well, she
Oh,
has
nice,
one.
you're leaving.
Yeah.
So,
So,
her name is being yelled at us. It's all caps.
Oh, you can smell it.
so we have some tremendous resources, both through Cascade Employers and through the SBAO. SBAO, there's a template. So we got a hold of the template. We merged our policy manual, personnel manual, with the template. What's great about it is it has everything legal that we need to have in there. And it's based upon, there's different sections, like if your organization is up to 50 employees and 51 through 149, whatnot. So you go through and you pull out the stuff that doesn't apply to us. Then we get to send it back to HR Answers, which is the HR legal teams. They review it and there's discussion back and forth, because especially when you get into your individual agency, they just, hey, is this what you intended to mean? Because this is how we're reading it. So they just kind of help clean up the language a bit in there. And so they gave their blessing on it. So now we're just giving it to you guys. So hopefully you can adopt it. We'll update the handbook and then we'll get all the employees to, we already have it online, so they'd be able to do that when we onboard them. It's a part of their onboarding process, so they can read it, review it, print it, sleep with it, whatever they want, before they even, sign up with us. So, because some people do like to read all that stuff and fall asleep as they're reading it, so. So everything in there has been reviewed by a legal department through the SDAO, which is really great because it is very specific to special district governments.
So Mr. Acting Chair, just as background for newer board members, which would be you and Gail. So this actually was a process that started a couple of years ago. An issue came up that Lisa and I, as the personnel subcommittee, dealt with, and one of the things that came out of that was that our handbook was woefully out of date, and it was recommended we do exactly what happened, was take the special districts handbook, have them look at ours, merge it with theirs. We are a special district, so having one that's special district centric, it makes sense. And so this final product here is exactly what we were looking for when we started this a couple of years ago. So I'm happy to see us get to this point.
Any comments?
Yeah, I just would like to thank the staff for doing, especially Heidi for making sure that this, Heidi and Dawn for getting this done, because I think it was important. And I'm happy to see that you've used the resources that you have available to you to do that. So thank you.
I had the pleasure of reading this, going through this. It was a pleasure. I've never had so much fun reading this. But with that said, and I know the amount of work that goes into this, I do. I mean, and I appreciate it. But there were some things in there that we might want to add or clarify or change a little bit.
Okay.
So I was wondering if I could sit down with you and talk about some things, because I was responsible for workman's comp here in the district when I was here and all those type of things. There's some things in there that weren't clear, I think, for our employees that need to be talked about. So if I could sit down, I don't want to do it here.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there's 300 things that we need to look at, but there are some things that I'd like to look at. So I would like to make a proposal to personally study this and then have it discussed at our next, or approved at our next board meeting, if that's okay with the rest of the board. Not that it's bad, but there's some things I think I might be able to add and give a little clarity.
Jim, the attorneys, we had a lot of stuff in there.
Oh, I don't disagree.
They took it out. They did not feel, when you go with these manuals, there's a lot of misunderstandings, and based on the court cases and SDAO, they recommended that, but I'd have no problem with waiting. I just want to.
And I'm sure that the due diligence was done. I'm not saying it wasn't, but there might be some things that it might be able to add or delete that would improve it. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine too. I just thought that would be good. Because I know that the next time that you'll do this booklet will be in 20 years.
And actually, probably not. This is a very fluid document, and
Okay.
when legislative changes happen, they notify us so that we can make the changes. So we might be reviewing it in 6 months from now again.
Right.
And one
Oh,
of
don't
the
say
big
that.
things that is really great with this service is when they were talking about, there's a difference between policies and procedures. And you don't want to have your procedures overweighted into your policy manual. And, you know, like you kind of mentioned some things about workers' comp and safety. Like we have a safety team. And they were really pleased with our line item about how we take volunteers. And he goes, that's all you need to say about that, because that's a whole separate section. They have their own separate handbook, which I know Kat's working on that. He goes, that should not be a part of your policy manual.
Well, again, I just like to move to postpone this to the next official board meeting. And I just need a second for that.
We'll need a second to, we can just table
Can we just table it? I'm just reading through
it.
these.
As long as there's no objection from board members, we can just table it to the next board meeting. I think, response, Jim's a 30-year former employee. If he wants to go through it, and he's got that ambition to do so. I certainly don't. But
Ambition.
if Jim does, then I'm fine with tabling this for a month.
Okay. All those in favor?
Nobody's objecting, just move on.
Let's move on. Man,
We can do that by consensus. Sorry, I'm trying to run your meeting for you.
no, that's okay. I just got thrown into it tonight. Thanks, Lisa. Okay. Reports and comments from board members.
I'll start. I don't have anything official to talk about. The legislature starts next week. I haven't heard anything that would be of any interest to the park district, but I always keep my ears open. The thing I just wanted to relay, some sad news, is that our former board member Pete Sidarius, his mom entered hospice care yesterday. She's got maybe 6 weeks at the very most. And so it's just a tough time for Pete and his family. So if you are inclined to pray, do that for Pete and his family. For comfort and peace and stuff. Mom is a good Christian lady. There's no concerns about that. But it's, Pete, this will be Pete's losing his first parent. He's having lost both of mine some time ago. Doesn't matter how old you are or they are, it's difficult to go through. So, but he wanted me to kind of let people know. So.
He was at my kids once, his parents did.
Any other board members' comments?
Yeah, Jim, I do. I'd like to say I'm really pleased with the work that Casey and the crew have done at Ewing Young Park on the trail. But I did notice that the first, you'd start by the BMX track and head to the left and head downhill where that first, hairpin switchback is. It's getting muddy there again. Park's doing a real good job in most of the places, but it might just take a little bit more work in some of the real sloppy areas. But compared to this time last year, it's a night and day improvement. So appreciate that. And then I just wanted to say, Michelle and I have gone up to the Sahalem Ridge Park that Marty Peters told us about. It's, if you head out towards Gaston, it's up the hill. It's pretty easy if you Google it. It's close to town and the trails are outstanding. There's at least 10 miles of trails. There are some that are walking trails only. There's also equestrian trails and bicycle trails, and some of those are shared. But Newburgh, and so it's a great place to hike. That's it for me.
I have a couple things where I was approached. So the Morning Rotary Club, now I'm a new Rotarian, so it's not my club, but the Morning Rotary Club approached me and talked about the Scott Levitt structures. They see a lot of new homes and people moving over there. And I remember putting that park in, I don't know, like 25 years ago, Don, you think? And it was kind of put in as a fitness type park, but there was a tot structure in there. So they're, willing to talk to us about helping us possibly fund some new equipment and work on that. So I just thought that, if that possibility is there, it's all, especially that tot structure is getting pretty old. It might be good to discuss that. So I talked to Casey about it in passing, and I could work with him with the morning rotor if he'd like, and have them help us do that. And then I was also talked to, and I know I saw it in one of the letters to us from the public, is putting up that gate up there at the top of Shad Park. It might be done already, I don't know. We talked about that, but I know someone talked to me, and then I saw it in the board packet. So if we could, that's a simple fix, I think, if we could get up there to do that, because we have some folks that want to come in with vehicles and rampage the park, I guess, in case he knows about it. So hopefully we can get on that. That's all I have. Quiet tonight.
I think anything we can do to improve Scott Levitt would be great. I mean, it's the 1 square block. You can't expand it. That's all it is. But it's always kind of looked like a park on that side of town kind of thing. And so, yeah, I'm all in favor of anything we can do to improve it. If the Rotary Club wants to pitch in, that's great. And then if we can help out as well, I'm all about that.
Okay. Any other comments, reports? All right. Full business updates on projects and questions. I'm not sure who wants to go first on that.
I guess most of those are my projects, aren't they? Although a lot of us are involved, Dawn included. I guess the first one would be the Sanders State Park update. We had a meeting with SEA and Jan and her team, John and Greg, and talked about our cost estimates that were given to us from engineering company related to the costs of the construction of the park, knowing that the city of Dundee is going to make us do road improvements, parking lot, utility, undergrounding, parking lot before we do anything in the park. And the first feature being the water park or water feature. You're looking at probably $1.5 million just to get started. So we're going to have to go see what we can do for a grant on that. I know Jan wants to see this come to fruition. We've kind of been delaying things, talking to Rob Dakin, the city manager, until his replacement was found, and that went by the wayside. And currently they're speaking with an applicant and hopefully have someone on board soon. Rob is still there half-time in the afternoons. I talked to him the other day, so I think maybe it's time to start a conversation with them. And he's got a list going for the new onboarding, so we can get that project rolling. Crabtree Park, we're still working on the culvert with the Oregon Fisheries Department. They're having a meeting in February to determine or to approve our mitigation. If that gets approved, then we'll be doing something this summer to replace the culvert and do some mitigation downstream of that. Aquatic and Fitness Center, we're still waiting for parts and pieces, and the new date is March the 17th arrival for the components that they need to complete their retrofit of the HVAC system. And we are working on the Newburgh Dundee Bypass Trail. Doesn't look like we're doing anything, but I think we're almost at 30% design. We've done the artifacts. We've done the wetlands delineation. We've talked to the city for what they're going to require for wetlands permits and those types of things. The property changed hands from county to city early in January, so we were going to have to go get permits from county and the city, but luckily we'll only have to deal with the city. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad, but they're kind of working with us together. They did find some, the geotechs that we're doing the work down there did find some, a vein of, I shouldn't say a vein, but 15 feet of sawdust at one of the bridge abutment points. And so we're currently trying to move that away from that sawdust pile. So the alignment's not quite set yet. And the length isn't, the length isn't determined quite as yet, but they sent the geotechs back out to find out how far they had to go to move that. And they did find an area that was terra firma. So, and we're still working with NV5, John and Mike on the Ewing Young Bridge. We have currently, I think it's in the board packet, but I didn't really look closely today. There are 3 bids that were received, or quotes, for bridge construction, and it's construction of a 95-foot by 8-foot pedestrian bridge across Shalem Creek. And we've had a pre-application with the city of Newburgh, and we have to have one with the county as well, because for some reason our lot got split in half, and parts in the county and parts in the city. So rather than do a land use, we're just going to try and, that the use is permitted on the piece of land. We're just going to try and do what we need to build the bridge and put a walking trail around there and not change any land use. I think it's AF10, and parks and trails are permitted in those areas. What else? We're still working on land use with the 219 property. That's currently why you have a master plan in your board packet. That's what Don has been working on. It was recommended to us that we segment our district or into quadrants or segments for land use purposes. So if you see that in there, that was a result of the land use planner, Paula Grimace, and John Bridges, our attorney. And that's to go forward to the county for land use for the campground, because it is AF 80 land. And so it's going to require some land use actions. I think that's about it on the projects. Yeah. Any questions?
I have a question on the Ewing, and Crabtree Park.
Yeah.
Did you talk to ODFW about a fish kill on that stream? Meaning that, what that means is that they go out periodically and they'll do a kill in a certain section to see if there's any fish at all. And so it's just something that I looked into and it was brought up to me. You might want to talk to them about that, because when they say there's a fish in a stream and it's been dried up 3/4 of the year, they might do that for you and they don't find anything. That's just as we go down the road on that.
They use maps on that, Jim, and I've talked to Greg Abke and I've talked to their fish biologist, and that's what they're going with. And we're trying to get them to buy into what we want to do down there.
No, and I agree with what you want to do. I just think that might help you a little bit. So,
It hasn't helped. They don't seem to be too receptive to anything we've talked to them about. We've told them, I've taken pictures all winter long. Currently that stream is kind of a trickle. It's only been dry for, I don't know, maybe 5 days, 6 days. Yeah, I just don't believe they make you do that. But that's what the rules say.
any other questions, for Casey?
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions on reports from the staff? They're in your packet. Okay. Then we'll move on. Thanks, Casey. Get well, buddy.
Yeah, I'm doing okay.
Okay. Go to bed.
Go to bed, yeah.
Pickleball Advisory Committee. Report.
Well,
Anybody have something else? Did I skip something?
The pickleball and the trails, we just put the reports for
Okay, so you don't
you
want to
to
discuss them
review
first.
in case there's any questions.
Well, I know that Bart was at that last meeting and then she was on the pickleball. If there's nothing to report, we can go off of that if you want. But I was just wondering.
I
Just coverage.
think we've heard plenty on pickleball.
Yeah.
Bart, do you have anything? Right on the other end. Okay, superintendent's
You're
report.
muted, Bart.
Oh, he has
I
some.
think Bart's talking.
Yes.
I was noticing the pickleball in the master plan is has a $750,000 as a budget line item, but the pickleball advisory committee sounds like they've got significantly different numbers. So just pointing that discrepancy out.
Was that an outdoor pickleball court they put in the master plan down versus an indoor pickleball court? That is a big difference. It's like an outdoor pool versus an indoor pool. Huge difference. in numbers. Bart, anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. Superintendent's report.
I gave you a copy of the master plan. This is what you're going to eventually get. It'll be larger than this. But I kind of gave you the summary or the executive summary. Just review it, and if you have any questions, just get back with me. Just give me a call. This will be a long process. The other thing is on page 197, we will send to the city, the county, and the city of Dundee the increase on the system development charges. The board passed a resolution that said every year they increase those, and I've been instructed to do that. I wanted to give you a letter so that you could see what those fees would be. An example, last year, those fees increased 0.00943. Oh, excuse me, 0.0094. This year, they increased 0.0843. So it was not substantial, but a good increase. Construction costs, I don't have to tell you what's occurring with it, but that would be an example. This will go into effect July 1, 2022. So I wanted you aware of that.
Now, when you say 0.084, that's 8.4%.
That's 8.43%, correct,
Thank you for that clarification.
right. And that comes out of the methodology when we did the study, the board passed the resolution. Most of you were on there. Remember, you said we didn't want to get in a situation where it was increased again like it was the last time. So I wanted you aware of what we were doing. So I will probably put that in February and March as well, just to keep it visible. I think keeping things up so people can know is important. So if you say it again, don't get excited. You probably will. The other thing is that Jim and I, we met with the Newsom family, the winery, concerning trail issues. There's nothing to really report. We want to make sure that people are aware of what we want to do and that the property owners are on board. So we met with them and we'll probably be coming back to you.
As a preliminary meeting with Knudsen, they're interested in having trails on their private property, working with the Park District on that. But again, it's just exploratory by them. Yeah, but they're very, very interested in the public good and want to be able to possibly use an area out of Crabtree Park to have trails up there. So it was good to hear. They approached us on that. So it was good. Nice people, very nice people.
That's all I've got.
Okay. Staff reports were in your packet. Any questions? Any reports from Kat?
Sure. So over at the senior center, Polly Tremaine has retired and we have replaced her. We have a full timer there named Sarah Larison. And she has been helping out for the last few years with Meals on Wheels. So she jumped at the chance to become a staffer and she's been hired. And you can find out more about her on our website. We have a feature about her there that the graphic is going to pick up. So she'll probably be in the paper as well next edition. But we're really excited to have her there. She's got great energy. She lives very nearby. Her kids have become regulars in the senior center as well, helping out with Meals and Wheels. And it just looks like going to be a great fit. And before this, she lived in Texas and was a paramedic there. So that's kind of a nice.
Yeah, right up in the packet on her. Sounds like a great gal.
Yeah, she's super energy and real excited. If you have any input on activities, new activities that could be added for the senior center, things you'd like to see, she'll be warm to suggestions. We are promoting the father-daughter dance to take place in February 26th at the Armory and Youth Center, spaced out into both buildings. For COVID precautions, dining to take place in the youth center, dancing to take place in the Armory. Registration is open, and this year it is going to be a family invasion, meaning that it is not limited simply to fathers and daughters, but open to entire families of any relationships within those. We are also advertising for the Camellia Run, part of the Camellia Festival that is returning this year, both of them, and registration is open already. MLK Day event went well through the Cultural Center. We work with them on that. We've worked with that on that for many years. It was going to be hybrid at the last moment due to COVID. It was held completely over Zoom. Rick Rogers was one of the speakers. Basically, it went pretty well. They had just under, I think, 200 people ultimately attend that. The Trails Committee, you have minutes in there, but they're finally really getting their footing. Their chairperson is Jill Bilka, who you may be familiar with from the Dundee Parks Committee, and just kind of an activist in Dundee in general. She is a little slow stepping into her role because she had lost her father just as this committee was formed, and she had already been appointed chairperson. So they've been kind of languishing and brainstorming until the last meeting, and she's really done a great job with taking the helm, getting everything organized, getting Rogers rules in order, and they're just about ready to start splitting off into their special interests and groups and get things underway. In the meantime, one of the members there, Matt Dolphin, has been a volunteer with Trail Keepers of Oregon for some years. He's now moved on to become part of the board, and he's been talking with us, Don and Casey and myself, about ways that Trail Keepers of Oregon can get involved with CPRD's park maintenance. And it's a very welcome conversation that we're having. Looking forward to this day for a few years. On the Oregon Trails Coalition, been familiar with them, and it's great that we're finally starting to bridge that. So they're a terrific volunteer force. They're like 1,000 people strong all over the state, and they mobilize sometimes several times on a weekly basis in different regions throughout the state on trails projects that they do help them for little or for nothing, for free or for donations, basically. And they're specifically looking for projects south of Portland. So we're speaking with them about things they can start on with us. And we're also helping them connect with other nearby organizations, specifically Grand Ronde Tribes and the Abbey, Trappist Abbey. That was it, unless we wanted to mention anything about the ARPA grant stage.
Well, we did for the bridge, the ARPA.
Yes, we did submit
Yes.
a grant application for the bridge. I don't
think so. It's what we agreed is for that bridge is about $2 million. We agreed to put in 20%, which won't really, we're not paying for the bridge, but we're paying for the extension of the trail and those type things, which goes all the way down. The city had said that they would put in half of that 800,000. So we committed to all 800,000 with the hope that the city would put in their 400. And so we submitted the grant. They asked us to, and we did that with the ARPA funds. So that'll be their part.
Is this the second bridge we're talking about?
No.
First bridge.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
The other thing for the board is the Meals on Wheels. Seniors in this community. It's a great program. We feed a lot of seniors through that particular program. Seniors that wouldn't get meals. And they're delivered. And it's a great opportunity to help the community. And
They're not back on site yet, are they?
They're
But
they're not doing city-seated in-house
Right.
dining, but they have never missed a beat in delivery
Right.
throughout the entire
That's
pandemic.
awesome.
yeah, we can't meet on site, but that was canceled.
Sure.
The delivery part, and most of those people that were meeting on site just get it delivered.
Heidi? You want to leave you back in the back?
I'm enjoying it here in the back.
Okay.
Kellen's on.
Yeah, Kellen.
Oh, sorry, Kellen.
Nope, it's all right. Not a lot to report on. I'm making headway on our 2022 tournament schedule. Looks to be good. We're after 2020 with all the cancellations due to COVID, 2021 kind of bounced back to almost normal. One or two tournaments did not want to host, just out of precaution, but fairly normal. And I expect this year to be normal to a little bit better just because of more people playing golf over the last couple of years. So get that going. Otherwise, it's been good to see some sun and some cooler weather and some breezes to kind of warm the golf course up, or not warm the golf course up, but dry the golf course up a little bit. As you guys know, we've seen a ton of rain, so it's been pretty wet, but it's definitely drying up from what I've heard over the last couple days. That's about it. I think I'll look forward to meeting about that pickleball facility. Talk about a few different things from the golf course standpoint, but yeah, that's all for tonight. I'll reluctantly root for your 49ers, Dawn, just because I like you.
No, go Rams.
Golf carts. What do we know about golf carts?
Last on the golf carts, I talked to our rep. It's been 2 weeks now. Half of them are in Portland. The other half are on their way. So as soon as they have all of them in stock, they will deliver them to us. He was hopeful to be by the first week of February.
I haven't got a whole round out of a gold numbered one for the last 4 or 5 times, let alone a red one. So
Yep. We've got them coming out to look at and do maintenance on many golf carts, but we're just trying to get by right now.
we need to set one aside for, board members' use that doesn't have a governor on it.
I'll work on that for you.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else from staff reports? Okay, correspondence.
Who is this woman that keeps writing about the
She is anonymous, so we cannot say with any certainty who she is. If it is in DOT. But so Don's referring to in your packet, you have a collection of recent
I don't even know her typewriter.
letters that are being mailed to the office, but specifically to the board of directors. And so that's why they are definitely included in your correspondence there. Our staff has reviewed each and every one of them. Our staff, our recreation staff, specifically the aquatic staff and recreation supervisor, have discussed those several times internally. They have monitored it. Casey also has monitored the situation there. In short, we are not seeing anything amiss. There have not been any complaints. The attendance of the classes has not wavered. So we cannot, at this point, with the information that we have, identify any issues to be addressed. We cannot address this particular person because there's not a name with it. So this is for your reference and discussion.
I did notice in there that she talked about ADA. All those doors in that building are to a certain poundage for opening. So they meet ADA. So just for your knowledge, when we built the building, we looked at that. And that was part of it, so. Because that was one of the things she mentioned, that
I thought her ADA comment was that something about the hearing, that she couldn't hear, hard of hearing, and it was made more difficult by people talking. I find it kind of hard to believe that she could sue us because people were talking in a class, so.
Well, I think she's identified at least 6 different people in all the different letters too. So it's, it's one person one day and it's 2 other the other day and it's 3 other on another day. So maybe she just has really sensitive hearing. I don't know.
well, we thank her for her input. Anything else under correspondence? Anything under miscellaneous? It's good to see everybody. Stay safe. Can I have a,
We adjourn.
what,
Well, if we're gonna meet in 2 weeks, we should not adjourn, we should continue.
did we decide that?
Did we
We
decide?
have not set a date. for
We
that
have
meeting.
not set a date, so we should not adjourn. We should reconvene.
I didn't think we were
Do
going to.
we need to, if we're writing a letter for them to submit in their packet, do we need to convene again?
I agree with Lisa. If we're writing that letter and we said, hey, we're gonna find the land, do we need to meet to talk about it?
If the board doesn't wish to meet, we don't have to meet. That would be,
What are your folks' thoughts on that?
I would say, that-
Maybe somebody should check with pickleball to make sure, but I'm gonna say that if we're giving them a letter, they're not gonna know until we actually get a response. They said it's gonna be in February. That's the quickest turnaround I've ever seen, so that may bode well for them. But then I do think we might need to have some meeting just specifically for this at some point to talk about the various potential options
well, we
and
can
what we're
call,
comfortable with.
we can call a special meeting if we have to. There's just notice requirements.
yeah. The notice requirements by going ahead and setting a meeting, we meet the notice requirements. And that's a touchy situation sometimes with the public.
So we could deem that we're going to meet 2 weeks from tonight, and if we don't need to, we can always cancel.
Right, February the 10th,
Why don't we do that? That would be my
6
suggestion.
o'clock.
February 10th.
Let's say that we're going to do that, that way we meet meeting requirements, and if we don't need to, we can cancel. That's not an issue with meeting requirements.
Right, we can re-adjourn the meeting, or not in the meeting tonight, but re-adjourn on February the 10th.
That's 6
For
p.m.
the one item only.
Right.
That's all that we can discuss.
As long as 3 of us can make it, we're good.
I'm available.
I'm available.
Yeah, I am too, so. Let's do that.
February the 10th, 6 o'clock.
Okay, then I will not close this meeting. We will
Okay.
adjourn until February 10th at 6 o'clock.
And that we only discuss
There
the,
will be one item on the agenda, and that will be pickleball.
right,
Does that mean none of us are going to this on the 10th? The thing that Don just gave me.
oh, the SDAO.
That's all remote now.
Still on the 10th.
We could do it here. Because the meeting won't take that long. Well, the
That'll be-
10th is all
Something
day.
that everybody's going to?
That'll be during the day.
Yeah, that's SDAO. You,
Is that for board members not on this
the
meeting?
board, yeah.
It would be good for, assuming that they're offering I haven't seen that. If you're a new board member, they usually have a new board member thing.
Yeah.
It's like an orientation deal.
So you kind of pick and choose who the venue.
A training, yeah. But there's generally specifically one about being a board member. So it's good to do that. Usually this is something that's either in Seaside or Bend or Portland, and you actually go to it physically, but it looks like you can find that session, probably just dial in, just attend that one, I assume.
Yeah, it was in Eugene and they canceled it due to COVID, so everything's all online, but you still have to register for it. And it's free.
Is there anything at 6 o'clock? There you
There probably isn't a virtual golf tournament, so.
5 and 6:30 is the welcoming reception, so I think.
go. Okay.
Speaking of SDAO, I'm glad that you mentioned that, Gail. In your packet, you'll see that the SDAO annual program in
I
there.
saw that.
Yeah, they featured CPRD right on the table, contents front and center, with a half a dozen of our photos. We were also we were the special feature of last month, so they did a nice online feature with us, featured more of our photos, and we expect to be in the calendar again. So those were so that's all a result of a submission that we did out of the information office. And we're proud that Kayla McElligott, our resident staff photographer, has more of her photos showcased there from all various departments, and including a smoke-filled sky from the fires from those 3 days. They think it is a dramatic photo. We were just kind of funny that they chose that one, but
They were
yeah.
not burning down.
It was not burning down. It was the parking lot with the skies that you will remember from that year.
I
Anyway,
think
it's in there, and it was just pretty cool that we got recognized and they used them.
there's over 1,000 special districts in Oregon.
Yeah, it's great to be highlighted.
And that we're actually, the organization is like the League of Oregon Cities or the county. And as you all know, there's 36 counties and probably about 150 something cities, and there's over 1,000 special districts that go all the way from Metro, which is definitely the largest district, all the way down to much smaller fire districts. So
Cemetery districts. I was.
Mosquito abatement districts.
yes, library districts, all kinds of.
At one point in time, I was on the statewide special districts board of directors for 5 years. I was like, gosh, late 90s, early thousands.
So I'll go ahead and close this meeting. Well, I won't close the meeting. I will.
Close the meeting, we cannot adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Could I have a motion to close this meeting?
We need one, but I'll move as we close to reconvene on this.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
All right. Take care, you guys. Be safe.
And thanks again, Jim. I appreciate your assist there.
It's so smooth, wasn't I?
It was great.
That's right.